And the pig squeal means we're live.
The pig
Welcome,
squeal.
David Ganssle, aka Doggans.
It
How
is
are you?
good to be here, Zach DeRose. How are you?
Dude, I've been good. It's been too long since we've gone and done something like this. I feel like
It's
we always say
yeah.
that, and then like it's a couple of years go by, and we're like, what's going on now?
Well,
About the same.
last time I saw you in person was 5 years ago when I was driving across country
Oh
to move to
man.
California.
Was that 5 years ago already?
That was the beginning of 2015.
Goodness.
It's been ages since I've seen you, my friend.
Yeah. I was
And
still in school at that point, I remember. It's crazy. The highlight of that trip was me being able to show you the random trick I learned when you put a light behind your MacBook.
yes,
Do you remember that?
vaguely.
So if you dim the light all the way down on like one of the older MacBooks, I think like the older models before they got really bad,
Mm.
you could shine a light into the Apple and it would actually illuminate all the pixels for you. And I thought that
That's
was the
right.
coolest
That's
thing.
right. I do remember you showing me this. Yes.
Yeah, I was like, David, I've got to show you something, and you were like showing off all the cool stuff you were working on, and I'm like, no, wait, this will blow your mind. But yeah, man, it's crazy that's been 5 years already. But yeah, what have you been up to recently?
Well, recently, I've been, aside from just dealing with the insanity that is the whole world right now,
Yeah.
I've been working on. I've been continuing to work on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/doggans, DOGGANS.
You did them in a different order than I expected. Let me get this one up.
That
Curses.
that. Sorry, I forgot how it went during dress rehearsal.
It's fine. There you go. We got the right one highlighted right now.
There we go. That is my YouTube channel, and that is. But in addition to the stuff that is offered for free on my YouTube channel, there is a myriad of bonus content on my Patreon.
There it is.
Which is patreon.com/doggans. I've got so many bonus videos, including some very old videos from high school, one of which our esteemed host, Zach, plays a major role in.
Yes. So there's a crazy story about this where I may owe my marriage in part to this movie. So yeah, you want to why don't you explain first, David, sort of all the how this movie came about, and then I'll share my own story later.
So this was in the era where basically all we wanted to do was make projects and make big projects that were way out of our capabilities. But in my eternal quest to make a project, I stumbled across this 72-hour film contest on this website where it was basically on the Friday night they would email you a genre and a character that had to be in the short film, and then you had to make the short film over the weekend, and you actually had to burn it onto a DVD or export it onto a tape and mail it in, because this was before it was easy to upload video to the internet.
So it needed to be postmarked by the certain date, right?
Exactly. It had to be postmarked by the deadline. And
little did we know this was maybe all just a ploy by UPS to get a little bit more money. They gotta overnight it.
It was a scam in the pocket of big mailbox.
There we go.
But the genre we got was mockumentary, and the character we got was a success coach named Jesse Thomas. So we made a fake documentary about the world's most famous success coach, Jesse Thomas. We were like 14 or 15 or something at this time.
I think we were younger.
Possibly even like at the oldest we were
14.
I don't remember for certain. I just remember we were too young to be doing this. We were like wearing our dad's suits. So
yeah,
I'm wearing a suit jacket that's basically like I look like I'm doing like a David Byrne suit, like just the oversized. where I was playing the reporter interviewing you as Jesse Thomas, and we just spent a couple hours just shooting just back and forth.
Yeah, it was pretty much ad-libbing for 2 hours, and then you cut out the good stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'm not good with lines.
We made it work though. And what I mean, as well as any as well as any project made by kids works
in 72 hours.
Yeah,
but that was a great project because I feel like that 72-hour mark actually made us get it done, or actually made you get it done. I didn't do much other than sit down with you for that one session. But
yes, well, I definitely pulled at least one all-nighter editing it on time, and you can sort of hear because we shot other scenes to supplement it, where we had like my brother played the young version of you, and then another friend of mine played the sort of mid-level, mid-age version of you.
Yeah, and there was like the plot hole we covered by saying there was massive plastic surgery several times in his life.
Yes, we kept, to explain why he looked different as the different people, we kept, I think only one of them was left in the final cut, but there were at least 2 instances we improvised where he had major accidents on his face that required plastic surgery.
Yeah. It was the perfect plot point for a 12-year-old doing a 72-hour movie project where you had to swap actors out in the middle.
Well, and I remember the other rule of the contest was like the shorts couldn't be longer than 8 minutes, which was also a really good restraint for us, because again, our problem was always that we made projects too big and too ambitious, and it was like, here's something we have to keep short and concise. And but I'm editing it, and back then I had like really terrible editing software, and I'm just like, how am I, like, there's so much solid gold here, I'm gonna have to cut out all the good stuff. And of course,
wasn't that good though? Was it?
Obviously not, but
I got me married. So.
I mean, that helps. But when it's like 3 a.m. and everything is funny and
nice. Well, you got such great content to work with when you're working with me, right?
It was a really good time. I remember, I mean, that it was a stressful weekend, but I do remember it fondly. I remember that project fondly.
Yeah. So the story I had about how this may have contributed to my marriage. When my wife and I first met, one of the first things Summer did after our first meeting was to Google me, and of course the first thing that came up was our old YouTube video of this, which I guess has been now moved to Patreon. But
it is now, unfortunately, because as fond as I was of it at the time, I didn't want it to be the first thing that came up when people Googled me.
And so you just slap a paywall on it and we're good.
Yeah, I was like, if people already like me, they might enjoy watching it. But if somebody is trying to hire me and they're like, let's see what this guy can do, I don't think at this point it's the best example of my work anymore.
Yeah, that timestamp's probably a bit off. Like, they're like, oh, he was just doing this 2 years ago. In reality, that's what, oh gosh, if we were 12 and we're what, 33 now? 21 years ago? Goodness.
It was a long time ago. Again, I'm fuzzy on the actual dates because much of childhood is a blur, but
yeah. Well, so one of the big things that's coming up to me right now is there's a talk I love on YouTube from the guy who makes Magic the Gathering. I don't know if you've happened to see this or not, David, but it's he's talking about all the different lessons he's learned from doing 25 years of making the card game Magic the Gathering. Mm-hmm. And one of the big lessons is constraints actually foster creativity, which I think was something we were lacking in our younger days.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we had constraints because we had no money or resources. We just didn't think to work within our resources. We were just like, well, okay, someday we'll get money and then we can make this.
No, I definitely remember there was the Star Wars movie we were trying to make for a while. And I feel like I was more involved with this one because I remember getting all my friends from middle school to like sign up for different filming dates and all this stuff, most of which never materialized. But
yeah,
I do remember thinking, okay, we'll do this scene, we'll do this scene. David's got that next one because he's going to learn CGI.
yes.
Figure it out.
It's like I'm gonna teach myself, and I think I did like 2 like really mediocre CGI tests of like it almost looks like a battle droid, and it's like,
and I think I remember seeing this and being like, yes, that is what will be used in that scene. And like the whole battle scene would have just been like that. So
it was this project was. Again, not thinking within our constraints, we were like, okay, Attack of the Clones came out. Yeah, we can make a feature-length spoof of Attack of the Clones. Like, we can do a comedic remake that is exactly as long as the actual movie.
Yeah, that was not wise, but it was fun. So one thing I love about my childhood from meeting you is sort of having this mindset that you had about like for me, I was I feel like in some ways I was more content to just play video games sometimes. But then I met you and Nick and the whole Ganssle clan, and it was like, well, playing video games is all right, but what's really cool is like making your own. I was like, yeah, that does sound a lot cooler. So I don't know. I feel like that led to a lot of things for me. Just that sort of mind chains, seeing people who are actually out there and going and getting it. Like like I said, the Jesse Thomas thing, the 72-hour movie thing. I don't know if I would have ever signed up for it, but you did, damn it.
I was, yeah, and it probably hurt my schoolwork for a while because I like got no homework done that weekend. But
man, when do we use school anyways?
I mean, that's true. I'm still using the lessons I learned making that film, but I can't tell you what the chemistry homework I failed that weekend was.
Chemistry, who needs it? Yeah, but yeah, let's see. Another thing. So going along with that, we had our origin story. That's kind of interesting to talk about too. So we met each other through our dads.
Yes, our dads, the Yale philosophers, which makes them sound far more.
Makes us seem like such disappointments in comparison.
Yes.
Our dads, the Yale philosophers, we got together and we made a really good movie that's on David's Patreon. They're doing like really impressive work on philosophy stuff I don't really understand.
Yeah, when you describe how our dads know each other, like it makes it sound like they're like they're bald and they have the long Aristotle beards and they're just in robes pontificating all the time.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like when I tell people my dad's a philosophy professor at Yale, they get the exact wrong impression about him.
Yeah.
Like he wears ratty T-shirts of basketball players and jeans.
I think our parents did more bonding. Just like my dad would just be playing the same Bob Dylan songs over and over on the guitar. And
I always remember thinking, Greg, your dad was super cool. Like played the guitar. He was super personable, which I always admired.
He's my dad is very social in all the best ways, and I am severely more introverted than my dad is. So whenever dad would whenever I'd be at a party for school or something, they'd be like, "Oh, but is your dad coming to pick you up? Can he play guitar for a while?"
You only love me for Greg.
I was fine with it though because I was cool by association.
Yeah.
I had the cool dad and I was like, that's so much less effort than being cool myself.
Yeah. No, I remember there was a period of time. I think this was maybe like during our psych years when we would just watch Psych in your basement for hours. But yes, I remember legitimately looking forward to your dad whipping me around on the little rope swing that y'all had in your backyard.
Yes, we had a rope swing, which was really just a rope, just tied to the tree in the backyard.
Yeah, I just remember like hanging onto that thing for dear life, and like sizing up Greg, and like he looks like a strong man kind of, but I was not prepared for the first time you swung me around on that thing. I thought I was gonna die.
Meanwhile, Eric is just like climbing up on our rooftop. Our friend Eric is just climbing on the roof, and
who needs ropes?
Yeah.
Yeah, good times. Well, so I'm sorry. I feel like I interrupted you in the middle of a thought just a second ago.
Oh, probably, but I don't remember what it was.
Okay, good deal. So yeah, my first programming experience also came courtesy of the Ganssles, because so we had going along with y'all's ideas of like making projects for stuff. You, me, and our younger brothers decided to create the video game company NIDS, which was an acronym of all of our names, which we thought was very clever at the time.
We were like, that way everyone's included. It's an equal partnership. It's
exactly. That's all that matters, is like how much of the name share you have, right?
Yes, exactly. We all get 25% stake in whatever this is.
Yeah. But I remember y'all not knowing anything about programming at the time, but knowing that you guys had known some stuff. I feel like it was Nick that was really messing around with the programming at the time.
It was both Nick and I would trade off experimenting around. So this started. The problem is neither Nick nor myself ever really had the attention span to really get in deep and learn programming well.
Yeah.
But we had the vague notion, like we had a game on our computer. I think it was like Rattler Race or something. We saw in the about on the game. It said it was like programmed in Visual Basic. It's like, aha, we will acquire this Visual Basic and then we will be able to make games. That's all it'll take.
It will be ours.
And yeah. I think as far as we really got with experimenting in Visual Basic was we learned how to make basically menus.
Yeah.
But then we were like, okay, but then if we do this where it's like we can turn menus into like you click here for arrow keys, you click, like we were like, oh, we can sort of backdoor this.
Yeah.
Again, not really learning proper programming, but just sort of figuring our way around what we could do, and then losing focus on the project because it would just be too overwhelming.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Not surprisingly, that with the workflow you just describes a lot of my side projects now, even. But yeah, I mean, I'm still kind of in that world now, and it's because we were like, oh man, the Ganssles have this Visual Basic thing. We got to figure this stuff out. Isaiah actually got really far. My younger brother got really far with it. I remember he had a Zelda demo that he actually had like moving sprites and stuff. And I'm still not sure how he did that in Visual Basic, but he did it, damn it. And it was cool. But I had like some stuff. I remember coding up like trying to code up an RPG game. I'm still trying to make that same RPG game and get something released. So, but yeah, having fun with that in Visual Basic. And the good thing is, though, you'll be happy to learn, David, is that Visual Basic absolutely sucks, like as a programming language.
I mean, I figured that out a while later, but
yeah,
at the time I was just like, what is the thing that made this one game? Oh, that's all it takes, and obviously that's not all it takes. But
yeah, for sure. But yeah. Yeah, I had my first internship was doing a lot of Visual Basic code. And this was after I'd been in school for several years learning the stuff. I was like, why did we think this was cool back at the time? This was because it was all we knew. But
yeah, it was, and this was before there were a lot of easily accessible, like, I feel like now there are more apps that are low cost that are specifically for like kids to learn game design and kids to learn coding and stuff.
Yeah.
And back then, it just wasn't something that there was the same kind of market for.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. My boys will do like coding projects now. It's like all visual. Like they're just dragging and dropping these little. It's almost like puzzle pieces around on the screen and like doing some impressive stuff. And the interesting thing is like they're not typing code, but they're learning the exact lessons they need to learn in terms of like the mental model of how different things are working. So like loops and stuff like that. It's just instead of writing a for loop, they're like sticking a piece inside of another piece that says repeat 5 times or something. So
it's like the coding equivalent of those old like Mario teaches typing or like
yeah
where it's like it's not the real skills, but it helps you learn the real skills.
Yeah. Well, like what was it, like the Mario Paint? It's very much like that. I feel.
Yes.
You can actually kind of make like Mario Paint was almost like a precursor to what are the games now? Super Mario Maker?
Yeah.
So
I would have been if Mario Maker had existed when we were kids, like that would have been all we were doing.
Yeah,
designing.
I don't know.
Levels.
I feel like eventually maybe it would have gotten old. We got it for Luke, one of our boys, and he's a big tinkerer, and it didn't last very long for him. But
well, it would have been all we were doing for like the first weekend, and before we moved on.
There we go. So yeah, the secret that no one will tell you about programming in the tech world, David, is we're pretty much glorified plumbers. And yeah, like those, it's kind of like humbling to see everything like distilled into a child's game of blocks. Be like, yeah, that's pretty much what I do, I guess. So anyways, moving along from that, one of the things we always talked about is when we were older. So this was like, I label this the psych years. This was like high school and maybe a little after college too. I think it was maybe mainly after college.
I feel like there was a period there where there was a period there where we were out of college and I was raising money for this other job that's a long story that we don't have to get into, but like it was just taking forever. So I was just stuck at home. And basically everybody else we knew had already moved away. So we spent a lot of weekends watching Psych and Futurama.
For a while there was like, not to downplay our friendship, but it was a friendship of convenience. You provided the Psych and I provided the Wii.
It wasn't exclusively a friendship of convenience, but it certainly was a convenient friendship.
The convenience didn't hurt.
Yes.
Yeah.
We probably like we would have hung out anyway, but we hung out a lot more because what else were we going to do?
Yeah. No, I remember. So I was working like my mailroom job back then. This was before I would go back to school later for computer science. But I was working out of a mailroom. I remember like for several months, it was like every day after work, I just head over to your place and we'd watch Psych for like a couple hours. All of them. So one of the big lures of the Ganssle household when I was growing up was they had every movie imaginable in their basement. and you had no video game consoles, so that was our trade.
Yeah, we didn't own any consoles. We had some computer games, but no video game consoles. So I remember I came over to your house when Telltale released that first Strong Bad game for the Wii, and we spent the day playing that.
It wasn't that great, is my recollection.
It was all right. It was more of a like funny Homestar Runner thing than it was a fun, exciting game.
Yeah, that's true. But so
I also remember it just took so long to download it from the Wii shop, and we kept like I think we went into the other room and started playing a different video game on a different console while we were waiting for the game to download on the Wii shop.
Yeah. I feel like I remember this. Like the Wii was always like super sketchy about like downloading stuff.
Yeah.
So you'd always have to run it like 3 times. I'm sure our internet connection didn't help that much, but Yeah, we got it and we did the dang thing.
Yeah.
So, and the payoff was not that great. That's the only thing I remember.
But we got to spend a fun day together.
Yeah, no, that was fun. That was fun. But yeah, so like I remember like after watching Psych, or after getting a few hours of Psych in, we just like hang out for a little bit, and it would be like, man, we should do something like Homestar Runner.
Yeah.
And we never did. We should have spent all those hours watching Psych. We should have just been like, I don't know, doing something like we're doing right now.
Yeah, we were always like, they're just two guys. They made all that stuff. What's stopping us from making stuff? And then we just never had any ideas.
Then we press play on the next episode of Psych.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had, like, again, a recurring thing in our friendship was all the ideas we had were way too ambitious and way too big for us to actually accomplish.
Yeah.
We didn't have a lot of actually manageable bite-sized ideas. Like the 72-hour film contest was the only thing we finished because it had to be, like, because it had so many restraints on it. Yeah. But every other idea we had, we just would let it run wild and not give ourselves any deadlines or any guidelines.
Yeah.
And
it's like we'd let these ideas run wild and crazy to the point where we kind of both knew without acknowledging it that it would never happen. Yeah. And then we just kind of let it be like that, and then they never happen.
and then they just stop. We had
we're bad about that confrontation. Hey,
yeah,
you should have just said, hey, that's not going to work, right? Yeah, let's try something smaller. But we're always like, no, this will work.
I think we also both tended to be, at least I know I tended to be pretty stubborn about my ideas, and we were never, like, even when we did have ideas, we were never great at finding the compromise of making sure both of our ideas integrated.
Yeah. And that's a special talent, though, to be able to do that. So I don't know. I like we were saying before the show, though. I wish so much, because the one thing we got right, the one good thing about those conversations, the validating point was, I was like, this is a future, man. Like, years from now, people will easily make livings off of this stuff, and like, lo and behold, here we are now, and like, people on Twitch making a lot of money. People on YouTube making a lot of money, enough to make a living and then some. But again, like, that's a top X%, and X is very small.
But. Yeah, but even those of us who aren't making full livings from it are still making, we're making career strides. We're making supplemental income, and we're making. We're networking, we're learning, we're honing our skills.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of supplemental income, if you're watching, make sure you check out Dave's Patreon again. I feel like we started Patreons at similar times back when I was trying to make one of my video games. I feel like I was one of the earlier patrons. I'm trying to figure out if I still am or not.
Yeah, I remember we donated to each other's Patreons, basically the same level, so it would cancel each other out. But just so we'd both be giving the support.
Yeah, but really all of it was just giving Patreon more of the cut.
Yeah.
Hey, let's trade money, but throw Patreon 50 cents. Every month. It'll be a monthly thing. So that was fun. But yeah, if we... Just thinking, if we knew what we know now, where like, you just got to iterate on this stuff, like, just throw some shitty stuff out there. Maybe every 72 hours, one video, and what could have been.
I think about this a lot. I think about, like, when YouTube was first starting to take off, if I had been better about just making small things back then, like, I could have been on the ground floor, but then I also probably would have made some terrible stuff I was very embarrassed by. So it's give or take,
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure this is my mom. Hey, Mom.
Hello, long time no see.
Are your parents watching too? I don't know.
I don't know if they are. I don't know how active they are tracking my social media these days.
Nice. Well, I wish they were here. But yeah,
I'll send the link to the recording to them afterwards.
there we go. There we go. But yeah, like I don't know. Even if we did some things we were embarrassed of, like at least we would know. Okay, we would have those scars. Like we'd be able to know at least this won't work, and maybe getting some. Yeah, it's pretty cool. My mom has a Twitch account. I've been trying to get my mom. She's been watching a lot recently. She was staying with us for a while. A twerk account. I don't think that's the same thing. Mom, don't get a twerk account. Don't do it.
Do not Google.
Do not Google it. Don't Google it. But yeah, I'm really excited that my mom finally commented here. So thanks, Mom. Love you. Miss you. She just left. She went back to Connecticut a few days ago. She was staying with us for about a month here. So much needed help in the middle of COVID with all the youngins running around.
Sure, yeah. It's I can't even imagine. All I have to deal with is roommates and their cat, which has been peeing on my bed.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, my little ones pee on my bed too. we're still in potty training time. But I love you too, Mom. There we go. So yeah, I don't know, man. Going back, if we could have retaken back that time, no, maybe not. I wouldn't give away that time we had, our psych time for much.
And it's I don't like to spend too much time dwelling on the past. I don't like to spend too much time being like, oh, woulda, coulda, shoulda. But once in a while, I do think like I could have prepped myself better for this moment. But then I just try to channel that energy into thinking, okay, so what am I doing now? What am I doing now so that I don't have this regret 10 years from now?
I have the first part of that and not much of the second. I feel like I got to figure out that second part. I constantly feel like, David, well, just because of a lot of the responsibilities I have these days, it's like I don't have enough time to accomplish everything I want to, but I do have the desire. I do have kind of the skills now to try to get some of those things done. It's just like the time's just not there.
Finding the time is so hard. Yeah.
Yeah. And I look at periods of my life where, like, during our psych time, we actually had a good amount of free time. And what did I do with it? Like, I hung out with you and did psych. And I mean, not that that's a bad thing in any way. Yeah. Just didn't. If I had, I don't know, if I had the kick in the pants I have now from having kids, I think it would have been a different story.
Well, it's like you have at any given moment, like, there's the time to do things, the know-how to do things, and the energy to do things, and you never seem to have more than two of those at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember seeing that in college the first time around and being like, screw it, I could do that. And then things fall apart.
Yeah.
But so going back to the 72-hour thing, this is something else that just kind of like caught a wrinkle in my brain. I feel like I've done this a lot of times too. So like the 72 hours for Jesse Thomas, that was all you. But further on in my life, I'd go through like spurts where I'd like go all out on something for a similar period of time, maybe like an all-nighter or getting some project done. And then I'd be like, okay, I got this. I just have to do this every day now. And that would not be there. I don't know. I'd kind of lose it. I'd lose that gumption for a little bit, probably because I was sleep deprived and, needed to actually sleep. But yeah, I'm curious if you've had similar spurts in your like creative process.
Yeah, I definitely have. It's definitely I have my manic moments where it's like for this week, like I'm getting so much work done. I'm doubling down. I'm really plowing through. I'm getting work done. And then I'll just have weeks at a time where it's like I don't even want to look at any of my projects or I open up a project and I just stare at it and I basically fall asleep at my desk. And it's tricky. It's tricky to channel, and especially when you still have other responsibilities, when you have family, when you have day jobs, when you have responsibilities, things that need to take priority in the moment, and the time for your personal projects just comes whenever you can find it. And it's like I said, there's no guarantee that you'll find that time and you'll still have the energy for it. And it's really tricky to figure out. And one of the things I've been doing lately is scheduling my day in basically 15-minute chunks, and basically being like, when I have a long chunk.
That's a lot of chunks in a day, David. I don't know if I could do that.
Well, it's not always easy, but you can start by just scheduling an hour in 15 minutes, split an hour into 4 15-minute chunks. And then it's just like, okay, I know I can't do as much as needs to be done on this project, but if I just work on one step of it for 15 minutes, that's one more step than was done yesterday.
Yeah.
And it does help me, because sometimes I get overwhelmed by my projects, and it does help me to be able to break it down into more manageable chunks. And again, this was the lesson that we weren't learning when we were kids, is working on manageable things and not big, overambitious things. And teaching ourselves one step at a time. It's like we were so close to learning that when we were kids. I was like, okay, I taught myself a little CGI, but I didn't then translate that into, I just need to teach myself a little more and a little more. Instead, I was just like, yeah, but this is taking too long, I'm done. And sometimes, like, some projects should be abandoned. Like, probably those big ambitious projects we were working on wouldn't have been that good. So it's not necessarily wrong that we abandoned those projects. It's just a shame we didn't make smaller, more bite-sized things so we could learn from the mistakes as we were doing them. But
one of the big things I've learned from that, and just from other experiences since we've been working on stuff together, was just even when so there's the sunk cost thing. I feel like you're kind of describing, where like if a project's doomed to failure, it's probably better to just like let it die where it stands. But one of the lessons I've learned, and this might be easier for me and in my field, in just my situation, but let it die where it stands, but harvest the value you can out of it. Like if you learn some lesson for that, for me, it's like, try to turn that into a blog article or some other content that you can turn into like a quick YouTube video or something like that, or a teaching moment. And it's never a total loss. Sometimes it's like a total stop, but it's never a total loss. And trying to harvest the value from it. So
there's always something you can take away, even if it's just learning what not to do next time. There's always something you can take away, you can reuse. And again, as I've been putting old things I made in high school and college on Patreon, and then sort of I also on Patreon, I do a podcast with my fiance where we talk about all sorts of things. And one of the sub-series of that we did was talking through all the embarrassing old videos, and basically just describing what their place was in my life and describing how they taught me what I learned for the next project. And it's a lot of, sometimes when you're in the moment, all you're seeing is the failure of the project. And it's not until later that you're like, oh, if I hadn't tried that and failed, I wouldn't have known how to do this later.
Yeah. That's super interesting, man. Another thing I wanted to touch on was just like sort of how long you've been at it. Like, I feel like for me, I jump around from like project to project, and just like there's no YouTube channels for coding projects. I guess there kind of is. Like we've got GitHub. It's kind of a similar thing, but I keep most of my stuff like close to my chest. But looking at your YouTube here, you've got 500 videos now released, just under 500. I think you're 7 away from 500, and 2,000 subscribers. And that's, man, how many years is it since you've really been active on YouTube? It feels like it's been like 10 years, right?
It's been a long time. There are a couple of answers to that question, and it's hard to really pinpoint the exact. It's hard to really give a specific answer because the oldest video on my YouTube channel is 13 years old.
Okay.
But then I didn't start posting videos regularly until 9 years ago. And in fact, one of the earliest videos from when I started posting them regularly was the vlog from when you and I went to Boston to see the Woodstock show on Halloween.
Oh, I totally forgot about that. That was really fun.
Yeah, that was long ago. And yeah, when I started making a commitment to post things on YouTube regularly, I wasn't really sure what shape it would take. Like at first I was just doing random slice of life vlogs of things I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And but at the time I was also in the process of editing the first Dave Does Disney, which then later became kind of one of my flagship shows, as it were.
Yeah, dude, looking at the views here, you got 10,000 views on like every single one.
It's now granted, the first Dave Does Disney also went up, 9 years ago, so they've had plenty of time to accumulate those views, but
well, the fact that they've been this long living in the YouTube algorithm is kind of like a testament. Like my understanding, I'm not super active on YouTube. I want to get more active in it, and we can talk about that later too, because I want to get some ideas from you.
Yeah.
But yeah, my understanding is like a week old, and it's like you're not going to see it, unless you crack it somehow. And it seems like you've cracked it.
It's interesting because I've cracked it with those specific videos somehow. And then right next to them are videos from just as long ago that only have like 300 views. So yeah. I say only now. Like back then I would have been like, oh, wow, 300 whole people. And because, everybody starts somewhere. And again, I spend a lot of time not really sure. Like my YouTube channel was just a repository for whatever I was doing, and I didn't really have any sort of focus to it. And since then, I've been more about doing these specific shows I do, like at the time, Dave Does Disney, which was originally supposed to be that was actually a rare example of the opposite problem for me, where originally I was thinking that would just be a small scale one-off vlog, and then it just grew bigger and bigger and more ambitious. And that was the one time that was actually a successful strategy for me.
Nice.
And but then since then I've done other series like the Dave's Obsession of the Moment and the D-List and the occasional comedy sketch and still the occasional just one-off vlog.
Yeah. The Armchair Imagineering, I think I've watched each one of those so far, and I've enjoyed that. I'm not a super big theme park guy, but I've been to them. So like your one on the Rock and Roller Coaster, I thought was brilliant.
Yes, Armchair Imagineering is great because it, excuse me, because the real fun thing about doing Armchair Imagineering is it's kind of the best of both worlds, because the actual videos themselves are very manageable. Like they're very small, easy to make. I'm just sitting in a chair, talking on the camera. They're pretty quick to edit. Sometimes finding the B-roll I cut to takes a little bit of time, but for the most part, they're pretty quick to edit.
Yeah.
But I get to talk about the more ambitious projects that I don't have the resources for, because I'm pitching theme park rides I wish I could build. And of course, I can't build theme park rides. I will probably never be in a position where I'm able to build theme park rides. But this way I can at least share my vision with the world in a more manageable way. So that project really is the best of both worlds in terms of it's not that ambitious to produce, but it allows me to channel my ambition into something manageable.
Yeah. Well, the big thing about the armchair Imagineering is, man, like it's exactly like how we used to just hang out and just be like, you know, it would be cool if there was this collaboration, and then we'd be like, yeah.
It is a lot. Like I'm channeling a lot of the energy from when we would describe the video games we wanted to make or describe the movies we wanted to make, but now it's just like. Now it's just like, yeah, and now people can watch me describe it, and that takes care of that.
Yeah. Have you ever considered doing like a Twitch channel?
You know, I've thought about it. I've done a couple of live streams on YouTube, and I'm considering looking into doing stuff on Twitch. I do want to be doing live streaming more than I have been. Because oh nice, have a good time at Disney World.
Dave, you used to work there, right? At Disney World?
I never worked at Disney World. I worked at SeaWorld for a little while.
Okay.
But I when I lived in Orlando, there was a couple months I worked at SeaWorld. I was just at Disney World a lot. I have a couple of friends who work at Disney World, and they are surviving best they can in light of everything. And and now that I'm in California and I'm in Anaheim, I live very close to Disneyland, which is not open right now, which is probably for the best. But I don't know. It's a weird time, but we don't need to dwell on that.
All the same, hope you have a good time, Ellie. I hope it's fun. Hopefully the lines are long and don't get you sick. Or the lines are short and you don't get sick there.
Yeah, here's hoping. Hopefully everybody keeps their masks on.
Yeah.
So, and these days I work at a theme park around here, Knott's Berry Farm. I work their Halloween events when they're doing them, which this year they're not doing it, but I play a monster in Halloween mazes at Knott's Berry Farm, which is super fun to do, but also super exhausting because, you know, I'm like pouncing around corners, growling at people until 2 a.m. And
what a world.
Yeah.
What a world.
It was super fun back when I was also working at Starbucks, because for my day job, I would just be wishing I could yell at customers. And for my night job, I would be paid to yell at customers. And
that's probably a good balance, like a good yin and yang.
Yeah. They counterbalanced each other well.
Yeah. Well, so do you feel like from your experience doing like the YouTube channel and like just having such a long-standing thing, like you're just looking at your Patreon, you're getting a decent amount of money, it looks like now, per video, which, you know, it's, you know, definitely not enough to make a living off of yet. But do you see yourself maybe one day getting there, or is that the goal for you?
You know, at this point, I'm trying to just take things as they come. And I would love if this was a full-time, like if this paid a full-time living, mainly because then I could just devote all my time and energy to it. You know, I would love if I didn't have to think about doing paying work at the same time as doing, I mean, this is paying work, but it's not paying enough that it can be my only work.
Yeah.
And I would love if this was paying enough that I could just focus on it, you know, 40 hours a week or whatever, without having to stress about other things.
Yeah.
And that would, I feel like that would give me the flexibility to really get more ambitious, you know, fall into my traps of like working too hard on projects, but like tiptoe into getting a little more ambitious each time until eventually big projects are happening. But also right now, I'm like, you know, that doesn't happen for everybody. And I'm aware that doesn't happen for everybody. And if that doesn't happen for me, what I choose to focus on is what this does lead to. And, you know, right now I'm making enough money from it that it does help. It is still a financially responsible thing to work on videos. It's just not a financially responsible thing to spend all my time working on videos.
Yeah.
But it is, the more time I spend working on this, the more I learn from it. And I'm trying to not regret the mistakes of our youth, but trying to learn the lessons from our youth and think, okay, we weren't focusing on just what we could learn in the moment. Right now, I have the opportunity to make something, put it out every couple of weeks. I try to have one like big scripted video every month and one sort of unscripted vloggy video every month. And then the other weeks I put up best of clips from older videos. And really one of the driving factors was a few years ago, I noticed I had gone like 8 weeks in a row or something where there was something new on the YouTube channel every Sunday morning. And at a certain point, the motivating factor became less, how do I make each video as good as possible, and more, how do I make sure I don't break that streak of having something on the channel every Sunday morning? And now I give myself more leeway, because if I don't have something ready, then I put up a best of clip or a really quickly thrown together thing. But once I sort of flipped that switch in my brain, and it was less about making every video perfect and more about not breaking that streak, that sort of trained me to work faster. Now, granted, I still have projects that get too ambitious for their own good. My longtime viewers know that for several years now, I've been working on a Dave Does Disney follow-up called The Blitz California, where I review the California theme parks. And I started filming that years ago. It's still not done yet for a myriad of reasons, some of which are outside of my control, but a lot of them is just because I bit off more than I can chew with this project, and it's just taking too long. And with that case, it's like, because that one, it's been so long anyway, that is one I'm more comfortable waiting until I get it right. But for the week-by-week videos, I really want... I want them to be good, certainly. Like, I don't want to phone any of them in. Yeah. But it's more important to me in the moment to get a video done and learn from the mistakes I make on a video than it is to make every video be the perfect video that stands the test of time or whatever. Yeah.
It's really interesting to hear you talk about that. One thing, we had Sam Julien on our show a couple weeks back now. And I don't think you know him, David, but he's a pretty well-known speaker in the dev community I'm in. And he was he kind of like landed on the scene because he produced this massive book that took him like a year of like constant work to get out. And then it just kind of like dropped it. Like, he was coming off Mount Sinai and like, here's this book, and everyone wanted it. And a lot of like companies would like then pay for seminars for him to come over and all this stuff. But like that was really cool, because like he worked that hard and it paid off. But very, very easily, it could have been like he could have misjudged things a little bit, and like people wouldn't be that excited about the book, or it wouldn't be as timely or something like that. And then it would have been like that whole year came out, and then like kind of like a anticlimactic end. Like, thankfully for him, like he had that gut feeling like this was going to work, and it turned out to work for him. But going forward, he said he's trying to figure out kind of like what you were talking about, much more bite-sized pieces going forward to make sure there's like a constant stream of things. He's been doing a really good job of it, I think, recently. So. Yeah,
and it's definitely hard to work on something for so long without feedback. And
that's a huge theme in the tech world too. Like,
I can imagine.
Like, building the wrong project is a big problem in our world. But yeah.
Well, I imagine you also have the problem in the tech world of never knowing the second something's going to become obsolete, or
Yeah, I mean that's not as big as you'd think actually. Like
Okay.
there's several technologies that are just so long standing these days that like I've bet a lot of my career on this one framework in one language, and that's a fairly safe bet, even though it's like not the
Well,
one
that's
that's most common or most well known. It's still like a good bet to go on that. So
this is one of the things, but like even finding the thing that's not the most well known, but you stake your career on it. Sometimes that's the best move to do, because like even in the YouTube space, you know, when I was just not sure what my YouTube channel would be and I was just throwing random things on it, you know, there was not a lot of traction. But once I really doubled down on the theme park thing, like focusing on a specific niche was a great way to get the audience who was interested in that specific niche. And sometimes going for a little, and like I do still do a little of everything on the YouTube channel, but I know that some of the content I do is more guaranteed to resonate with the audience I've accumulated than other stuff I do. And sometimes it's less about learning how to do the most popular, most successful thing, and more about learning how to thrive within the specific niche.
Yeah, I think that very much holds true. Like the niche exists, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's companies that use this framework. And because they use this framework now, they're probably going to use it for many years to come. Think of as a really interesting example with the YouTube viewers, because that's the cool thing about the world we live in now, right? Like before, you gotta convince some suits, hey, this is meaningful. A meaningful show. You should put it on one of the 20 channels that are on cable or that are on the local networks.
Yeah.
And now, like, I don't know. I've watched videos on YouTube of people popping pimples, and there's a whole thing about this. It's an interesting world we live in.
I think of how, yeah, like I go to VidCon, the YouTube convention that happens in Anaheim.
Okay.
And there will be people at different panels who are like people who have hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and I've never heard of them, but it's because their channel is all about like backpacking through Taiwan or something, or it's like their channels are about such specific focuses, and they just thrive with the people who are seeking out the specific content they are making.
That seems like such an interesting convention to go to.
It's wild, especially because obviously they didn't have it this year for obvious reasons. But in the years past, it's interesting because there are different tiers at the convention where it's like you can get what they call a community pass to the convention, where it's basically just a fandom convention at that level. And if you go to the areas with the community pass, and that's mostly like teenage girls obsessing over
makeup.
Yeah. And you know, teenage boys who watch PewDiePie or whatever. And
makeup and PewDiePie.
Yeah, you know, that wonderful crossover.
I feel bad for the next generation.
But then you get a creator pass to VidCon, and then it's much more of like a networking conference, and because that's when you go mingle with the other people who are at your level or at a level around your level, and the people who are really focusing on, you know, wanting to make their channel and make their content good and long haul, you know, try to make their channel as good as it can be. So there will be panels about like how to light your videos better, or how to get better audio, or how to...
Dude, I need some of those lessons. I got this green screen and it in no way works. I think I know how to fix it. I've just been too lazy to do it. And like, it's kind of become my thing now. I'm the guy with the failed green screen in the back. At
a certain point, it just becomes the brand.
Yes, exactly. But no, I've been meaning for a long time. So I've been doing this now. I guess I'm on 56 episodes. That's pretty crazy. But yeah, I've been trying to make sure I try to up the quality a little bit all the time. And StreamYard is super nice because like I sent you a link and it just works. It's pretty nice for that.
You don't have to like counter rig like, oh, get on this Zoom and then I'll plug it in through this program and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, no, dude. For what most people do when they have talk shows like this, if they're not using StreamYard, it's like you said, they'll do a Zoom conference and they'll like do a screen capture of a square on their screen, so they can't move anything around or anything, and they just gotta like they just gotta figure out how to make it all work in like OBS. And I don't know, like it's super convenient, but I want to make sure. So days where I don't have a guest, I try to do like solo live coding stuff, trying to at least get better quality on that. But I've been kind of in a rut on that. Just haven't made much progress. Like I haven't been going backwards. The theme song's still there, and that's still solid. But yeah, I definitely super enjoyed having conversations on the channel too, though. And it's super cool to be able to have one with you and bring like some non-tech-ish stuff over. Like we were saying before the show, like you're kind of in tech. Like you're just not coding.
It's certainly tech adjacent. And right now, with most content being on the internet, almost every creative endeavor requires at least a tiny bit of tech knowledge.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, I mean, my computers are old and I definitely need to upgrade them. And part of the reason it takes me so long to work on videos is because my computers are old and slow. But then I need to do the research. It's like, okay, well, how do I best upgrade the computer? Or how do I, like, should I change my software? And then how do I, figuring out how to schedule a YouTube video and use all the tags and everything and how to best take advantage of the algorithms and everything. Like it's basically programming without knowing a programming language.
Yeah, no, that's so I've been doing a little bit of video editing for some of the stuff I've been trying to get into. It's I use what's the Adobe one?
Premiere?
Not After Effects. Premiere, is that right?
That's certainly one of them. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I feel like all the stuff that's going on, it's definitely like you're coding, but it's not as concrete. You don't have like any documentation. You just kind of Google randomly in the dark, or at least that's what I've been doing, trying to figure out how you do X, and it's like, wow.
For me, it's a lot of Googling, what does this error message mean?
Nice. I don't know. For me, I haven't been getting many error messages. It's just like it's worse than getting an error message. It's like, because at least the error message is Googleable. I'm like, yeah. I did this thing, but it did the opposite of what I wanted. What do? I was like, I'm sorry, my neural net has not evolved enough to be able to help you, you poor soul.
Years ago, one of my roommates tweeted about video editing. Well, in a response, like I tweeted something about how stressful video editing is, and my now roommate tweeted in response like, I'll just move this clip over here, and where did the sound go? I was a fool to play God.
Nice.
And it's still like that a lot of the time. Yeah,
that's funny. Listen, Dave, do you have a hard stop, or can you keep talking for a little bit?
I can keep going for a while. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because like one thing I'd be super interested to learn from you is like, I don't know, lessons you've learned or heard from other people about like getting into YouTube and figuring stuff out, like down to the technical part, down to like, what are you doing off of YouTube? Like obviously you've got the Patreon. And I noticed you have, I researched you a little bit before this. You've got doggans.com. Is that right? You've got some website.
Yes, I do have doggans.com. I haven't updated it in a very long time, and I really do need to update it. Because one of the things, like, it's it is less important now to have a website than it was like 5 years ago.
YouTube's like, it seems like all you need for some situations, right?
YouTube is pretty, self-sustaining at this point. It's still a good idea, though, to have other spaces your audience can follow you. And I still like knowing that if somehow YouTube collapses tomorrow, or if they shut my channel down for some godforsaken reason, like these aren't things that I expect, but with the YouTube world changing so quickly, you never know what could happen.
Yeah. So there's a lot of doomsday people on YouTube complaining about that, I've noticed recently.
Yeah, and I think a lot of them are greatly exaggerating the doomsday of it all, but it's still a good idea to have a space that you have total control over, so that when a platform shuts down, like I've been on other platforms that have shut down in the past, and fortunately they were never my only platform, but it's always a bummer to lose that option. So I think of like a few weeks ago when it was looking like TikTok was going to be shut down in the US, and
oh man,
I have not gotten really into TikTok myself yet because I think I'm too old for it. But I
have a friend just about 10 years older than us, loves TikTok. I won't say who it is because I don't want to out him. But
I mean, I'm still looking into it as a potential option for another platform, just because one thing is you never know which platform is the one that you're actually going to take off on. Like even if excuse me, even if the bulk of your thing is on YouTube, maybe you'll have a tweet go viral and that's where you'll get all your followers, and then you want to funnel them to your YouTube channel, like for instance. But yeah, I have friends who have their biggest success so far on TikTok compared to on YouTube. And some of those friends were really nervous. Like, if I lose TikTok, I lose half my audience. And
does TikTok monetize too?
I think so, but I'm not sure on the details because, again, I'm old and haven't figured this out yet. But I think they have some sort of monetization program with TikTok. I'm just not sure what the details on it are. But
from a tech standpoint, TikTok scares me. Just there was I think it was on Hacker Noon, like this kind of hacker Reddit board, I believe. Like someone did a reverse engineer of like all the network requests being sent across the app. And it's like kind of scary, the amount of data that was being sent over. Like,
I'm sure, yeah.
That makes Facebook and like Twitter. Well, Twitter is pretty good, but like Facebook's kind of scary. But it made Facebook seem like tame in comparison to the amount of data it's sending over. Like to the point where I think it was like sending your constant location and like trying to do sense. I don't know.
Yeah, Facebook is one that I would get rid of if I could, but there are too many people who like Facebook is my only point of contact with them anymore. And it's like, it is kind of scary just how integrated some of these things become in our lives. But I like going.
We're in it now.
Yeah. At this point, it's like, well, I'm trapped here, and going off the grid is not an option for me if I want to continue to make stuff for an audience. So
well, so do you promote your stuff on Facebook? I the only reason I use Facebook anymore is pretty much for my my wife refuses to chat with me on anything but Facebook Messenger. But I don't do much on that aside from it. But I have looked around, like in like the stuff I write, like the blogs I write. There's some groups on there with like 50,000 plus members, like multiple groups of that size that I could I could potentially put my different stuff on and maybe get some more clicks on it. But
yeah, I promote my stuff on Facebook. Facebook has never been my biggest generator of traffic, as it were. I still do it because I know there's a handful of people. Part of it is it's hard, like, as Facebook always changes their algorithm. And like the news, it becomes more and more difficult for anything to show up on people's news feed when you post it. And it's like, if you post a link to a YouTube video on Facebook, the algorithm is gonna kind of bury that compared to if you post
You upload it yourself to Facebook.
Yeah. So sometimes what I like to do is like post a teaser clip on Facebook video and then have the link to the full YouTube video under it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I like to do that, but then sometimes I'm like, by the time the video's up, I'm like, I'm too tired to do that part of it. I'll just throw the link out there and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, another big one for me is LinkedIn, just like the nature of where I'm at. And it's just like, so I enjoy using Twitter to the point where like I look forward to getting news on Twitter, not like news, but like tech news, you know, like interesting articles I might want to read or get some ideas to write my own. So Twitter feels like super easy to write on and do stuff with. But then, and when I first started doing the live stream, I was like, okay, every weekend I'm going to post something or schedule something so that I'll have my schedule there so people can find it on Facebook and on LinkedIn and all this stuff. And that lasted about 2 weeks. And now I'm just like, I'll just do Twitter. I don't know. That may be a sane choice for me to make at this point, just because like still pretty small, still getting started very much. But yeah, it feels like a little bit of a waste. Maybe I just need better systems to try to cross post this stuff a little bit easier and a little better.
Yeah, so. and I know there's like a lot of third-party apps where it's like, oh, post to all your socials at once.
Those feel so like, I don't know, ungenuine.
Yeah.
That feels wrong. So
I feel kind of the same way where I'm like and part of it is just the different social media platforms, like different kind of stuff works differently on it. So like on Instagram, for instance, you can't really post outside links, but you can post a picture and say, hey, the link is in my bio or whatever. And or you can just, what I do is I just make like a easy to copy paste like bit.ly link for every video. So like just type in bit.ly/armchair, whatever the new video is. But yeah, like all the different social media platforms, as much as there are times where they're all trying to be each other, they're also all very different. And the theoretical advantage to self-promoting on Twitter is it's easy for people to retweet it and share it. And although just yesterday they changed how retweets work and it's confusing and I don't know.
It's not that different. It's just like one more click.
It's not that different. It's just an extra annoying step that I'm sure we'll all get used to within a week. But it's
well, the other thing I really like about it is it will now show retweets with comments in the number of your retweets. So that's a fair trade for having to click the extra button. I honestly never noticed that. I noticed people talking about it recently. Like now I gotta press twice, but I thought it was always like that. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe I use the web client more than the phone one. Like I do the phone one like in the random cracks in my day, but mainly I'm doing it on the web client. So
yeah. So I guess that's all a roundabout way of saying it's good to be on as many platforms as you're comfortable being on, because you never know when one platform is going to, even if it doesn't go away permanently, you never know when it's going to stop working for what you need.
Yeah.
And when you're at the mercy of, Silicon Valley giants who are often changing things, not because it's what the people want, but just because it's what they think should be changed.
Don't talk about the overlords that way, David.
I'm sorry. I respect you all. All hail Zuckerberg. All hail Jack Dorsey. All hail all of them. But yeah, it's just like I said, we're no longer in the space where everybody needs their own website, but if you're capable of designing your own website, it's not a bad idea to make sure there's always a space you have control over.
Yeah.
Now, in my experience, your audience won't necessarily follow you to that space until they absolutely need to. Like,
Well, do you actually upload your videos to your own server, or are you just pointing them to YouTube?
These days, I just post them to YouTube and then embed them on the website. But I like knowing that there's always that space where it's like, if a YouTube video gets blocked for whatever reason, I can upload a backup on my own server and still have a copy of it. It's not recommended if you don't need to, because video takes up a lot of server space.
Well, server space is one thing, but just like to stream that video to someone, that could get real expensive real quick.
Yeah. So again, that's what made YouTube such a game changer when it came out, was like finally there was a free way to upload video. Before that, you had to like, link to a QuickTime file that people would download, and you'd be going over your bandwidth every week. And
I remember the early days of the internet, and maybe this was YouTube too, but like waiting, like having the tab open and clicking play and then pausing so it could buffer for like 30 minutes and then coming back to see like the 10 seconds and being like, oh, it's so cool, we're watching TV on our computer.
And this was one of the things that like Homestar Runner and other Flash websites of the time really figured out, just how to compress. Flash animation could be compressed so tightly that it wouldn't completely wreck their bandwidth to share that kind of video. But if you wanted to do anything in live action, you were kind of out of luck.
Yeah. So many people I've talked to on this show, most of them coders, got their start with Flash actually. So it's interesting to see that. But Flash was like a legitimate platform back then. And then the HTML5 standard came out and the Canvas came out, and like the whole that was one instance where like if you were heavily invested in Flash development, like it's like when the Death Star blew up that planet, like the disturbance in the force. Those things are kind of rare though these days, I feel like.
It's really just like the most I run into it these days is like, if I get like, I still use an old version of Final Cut just because it's the one I'm comfortable with. And I'm thinking, and again, because I have an old computer, so it works on that. But because my old computer is so slow, when I get a new computer, I'm going to need to upgrade. I'm probably going to need to get new video editing software. And yes, it'll be better video editing software in the long run, I'm sure. And it'll be faster and it'll be good and everything. But it's like, I'm already bracing myself for the learning curve of having to reteach myself some of the basic functions I take for granted now. But I don't know. Hopefully it's not too much of an adjustment. But
there's some fun in that too, though. At least for me. Did you find that too?
There is some fun. It can get stressful depending on how big of a learning curve there is. But
to me, like when I go to learn a new language or a new framework, it's like you're replaying a game, like some of those games where you can like start over, but you take like some of the cool stuff from the last playthrough with you, and so it becomes like drastically easier. So that's kind of like invigorating when you get to do that.
It's definitely very satisfying once you figure something out, like the endorphin rush when you're like, I got it, it's good now. Like
it's kind of a fickle thing though, because it's like, yes, I figured this out, I got it, and it's like now I'm 1/8 as productive as I had been in my last one.
There's give and take with all of this.
But it's still nice. Still nice to have that little bit of encouragement at least. So what do you think, like for YouTube, what's next for you? Like ideal world, is your ideal world you go viral, you get like 50,000 in the next year, and you just like full-time it off of that? Or I don't even know if that's realistic full-timer numbers.
I think my ideal next step is so I've got these long-term projects. You know, I've got this Blitz California, which I won't be able to finish until theme parks are open around here again. But I'm trying to get as much done as I can now, so that I only need to get the last couple of like things I need to film.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of like career, realistically, I think it's just going to be a continued gradual slope upward. Like every couple of weeks, I'll get some new Patreon support or whatever, and it's just going to be a gradual slope upward until someday I find I'm at the hopefully someday I find I'm at the place where I don't have to take other work anymore.
Yeah.
But I think
has your Patreon been a steady ramp up?
it's been it's been a very gradual ramp up.
Okay.
It's very like it's only a couple of months ago that I crossed the $100 threshold, which was a very exciting moment for me. And I think what's probably going to happen is, you know, obviously it's a very weird financial time for everybody. So I don't begrudge my audience for not all supporting me on Patreon. Like if any of my YouTube subscribers are watching this and you're not Patreon subscribers, I am fine. Like, I'm happy that you're watching my stuff at all. But obviously the Patreon support is what goes a long way. And I think within the next year, what I really would like to see happen is I guess this just gets to the point. I get enough income from this that I don't have to take work that I don't want to take. And like maybe it doesn't become my full-time job, but like maybe I'm getting like, say, half my income from Patreon and half of it from other freelance video work or from just other jobs I enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And I'm not having to supplement it with jobs for people I hate or with driving for app-based delivery services or all the other things that make up the rich tapestry that is a freelancer's career.
Yeah. Well, it seems like a really exciting place to be. I don't know. Just with seeing the progress you've made so far. Just a couple months ago, clearing that $100, you're at like 125 now. Oh, 113. Okay, so still, it's a decent jump since then.
Yeah, so. It's onward and upward. For the most part, like every once in a while, it dips down because someone has to drop out. And again, I don't begrudge anyone for needing to pull a plug on the support. I do really try to make the Patreon worth it. Like there's a weekly podcast, there's weekly bonus videos. I try to make sure that my subscribers feel like they are getting their money's worth out of it. Even though I know most Patreon support comes from people who just believe in the creator and want to support them and are less concerned with the reward, I just come from this mindset of like, if you're giving me money, I need to be giving you value.
Yeah.
And so I very much try to make sure I try to make sure there's plenty of stuff for people to see, but it also has to be stuff that's relatively easy for me to produce so that it's not hurting the main YouTube content. Because I only have so many hours to produce things. But so one thing I do frequently is a Throwback Thursday, where I put up either a commentary on an old video or like outtakes from an old video, or in some cases, an old video from my pre-YouTube career, such as Jesse Thomas, where
nice.
Again, so my audience who enjoys my stuff can sort of see the evolution of my work as they see the mediocre things I made in high school and see how I taught myself how to do the better things I make now, the hopefully better things I make now.
Nice. Do you reference back to your Patreon in all of your YouTube videos?
I always have on the end card. I have the URL, and I really should be better at actually plugging it and doing the call to action and actually saying, "Hey, did you know that there's this?" Because I know one of the biggest mistakes I often make on YouTube is assuming the audience has watched everything already. And I'm like, well, I already did this vlog where I plugged the thing on Patreon. And
Yeah.
I forget that people are only watching the videos that they're interested in.
Yeah.
And
Dude, I made that same exact mistake when I started streaming. I had like a long running series, which like the thought of that, like a long running live coding series, but it made it so that coming in the middle was kind of awkward. Like,
yeah,
unless you'd see the 30 hours that came before it. That's a kind of steep price to ask someone to pay. But hey, it works for Critical Role, like
yeah, some people figure it out how to, and I guess if you're telling a story that people are invested in enough, they won't mind watching all the backlog. But for videos I do where it's like for Armchair Imagineering, if I do one about the Muppets and one about the Twilight Zone, I'm going to have people in my audience who are like, well, I don't care about the Twilight Zone one, but I'll watch the Muppets one or whatever. And that's a roundabout way of getting to, like, I feel like I'm being redundant when I plug the same things over and over, but I really need to get out of that mindset and remind myself that for a lot of the audience, this is their first time hearing that there's a podcast on Patreon or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's been something I've been thinking about a lot too. Is just like I stopped myself from telling some stories on stream sometime because I'm like, oh, I said that last week, but it's like, no, just let it be your thing. If people, because a lot of people won't have heard it yet. So, yeah,
it's also because like I'm such a compulsive completionist when it comes to the content I consume. Mm-hmm. Like I listen to every episode of a podcast in order, or I watch every video on a YouTube channel, and I know.
Did you do that to mine? Is that why I got that sudden bump in viewership over the last month?
I'm still working my way through yours. I'm working my way through. I'm still catching up on the backlog.
You're a good liar, David. You're a good liar.
I made sure to watch enough before starting just to make sure I was comfortable with the format.
Yeah, that's all I ever asked.
But yeah, like, because I'm the guy who notices when a podcaster tells the same story over and over, I always worry I'm being judged for it, and then I have to remind myself.
Do you judge them though in those situations?
That's the thing, is I'm not judging them. I'm like, I'm noticing it, but I'm also like, it makes me feel smart for knowing the story already. It's like, I'm an insider, and I need to remind myself that audiences, by and large, don't get, like, they don't judge you for being a little redundant. They're just like, yep, I already knew this.
Well, in some ways it's endearing to the audience. I feel like I don't know. That's the way that's what I've been trying to tell myself, is like, just let it be like your trope or your meme, and just let it go from there.
Yeah, so. I'm always, I mean, my various insecurities that were instilled in me at an early age, I tend to assume other people are being more judgmental than I would be in a similar situation, and I don't know why I still assume that, and that's probably something I should talk about in therapy. But
we can't afford therapy, so we're going to Twitch.
Exactly.
Maybe one day I'll afford a green screen that works, and then I can go to therapy.
Step 1, green screen. Step 2,
therapy. Step 2, fix life.
It's like the Patreon stretch goals now are like,
send Dave to therapy.
Step 1, I can afford another light so that it looks a little better, and then step 2, I can afford to get my entire life together.
For only, if you contribute only $2,000 a month, you'll send Dave to therapy, where he'll get the help he desperately needs.
Please, you've seen the stuff he makes. You know how much he needs this.
At some point, that becomes like a weird threat. Like, pay up. You're gonna keep getting these YouTube videos. But yeah.
But that boils down to, like, again, I try to provide value on the Patreon because I never want to feel like I'm exploiting the audience.
Yeah.
And I never want to feel like I'm guilting or manipulating the audience into being like, hey, look, I mean, the fact of the matter is, if I get a lot more support on Patreon, I can make it my full-time job. And if I get a lot more, I can pay off debt. I can I can be more financially comfortable. But I also don't want to put the burden on the audience of fixing my life. So I want to make sure that the audience is like, if I support Doggans on Patreon, I'm going to get even more of the Doggans content that I already like from YouTube. And get to see Yeah,
that's the weird thing about Patreon. Oh, bye, Mom. Love you. But yeah, the weird thing about Patreon for me is it's like this weird impetus to put out more content that I don't know if, like, I've seen some channels that are very like successful, and they just like point to a Patreon at the end, almost like there's no rewards. They don't have any rewards on there. They just like say, I think like the one reward is like you get to see your name in the credits after every video.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. Like, the idea of that sounds really cool, because what they're trying to do is like support you so you can just keep doing the thing you're doing. And just to be able to take like even those smaller pieces of content that don't take that much time that you're putting on Patreon, just having them open to the world. Really, I'm just trying to get that Jesse Thomas thing back on YouTube. Get it out of the paywall, David. Come on.
Maybe I'll put clips from it on YouTube.
Yeah,
I recently found the original mini DV tapes that we shot Jesse Thomas on, and I need to see if they still work, because if so, there's several hours of Jesse Thomas bonus features that I need to.
You should try to see if now, where you with your skills now, if you can make a better cut of the.
Cut an actually decent version. That would be a good experiment.
That would be an interesting thing. I mean, because that content, those footage was pure gold.
Yeah, I mean, it would still be a video, like it would still be a short film where it's 12-year-olds playing 30-year-olds or whatever. But it's
I feel like I spray painted my hair silver for this. Is this
probably? Because we had like Halloween store like hairspray.
Oh yeah.
I think we sprayed it gray, and I think you can't tell on camera that the color's any different, because like we didn't know how to light. We didn't have very good cameras, and
I think I totally overshoot. Like the character's supposed to be like 40 years old, and I'm doing stuff like, "Listen, Sonny."
Well, when you're a kid, like. Anybody over 25 is just ancient, and
I know.
And we did, and again,
that was, I do remember having a lot of fun with it, because we were just kind of like, we got to a point where we were just being mean to each other, but it was kind of hilarious.
Yeah, we were just ripping, and what made it work again was like we just had neither of us were trained in improv at the time. But we just had the level.
Still not.
Yeah. But at the time, we just had the level of comfort with each other where we had the natural chemistry, where we knew we could just say anything to each other and we could roll with it. And
it was. I don't think we've lost it.
Yeah, in some ways, this has felt like going back to that day of filming. Except
it's so much different being this far away, though. Like it's definitely a cooler world we live in, where we can have these conversations in front of a screen. But I feel like that's my whole day, is just like talking to people through the screen here.
That's everybody's day now.
Yeah, I miss being in front of people a lot. Maybe not as much as most folks these days, just because I got the whole clan here at home. So, but just being able to talk to a colleague and not take care of someone. So nice right now. But yeah, dude. Hey, this was a lot of fun.
This was. I'm glad we did this.
Yeah, we should. We'll talk more after I wrap stuff up. But we should see if we can like rekindle the old Zach and Dave stuff and figure out a way of like getting some small pieces up. Like maybe like getting together on Twitch, or I don't know, maybe collaborating on some YouTube stuff, just playing some games or something. I saw you and Nick tried to speed run one of the old King's Quests, right?
Yes, that was a video we did a while back.
I remember watching it and being like, I don't think they're gonna, this is gonna work very well. And it did not.
It did not, but it was fun to do.
Yeah.
It was an unsuccessful experiment, but I like how the video turned out, just because you watch us falling deeper and deeper into disaster as we try to make this happen, and it just doesn't work.
But you got it up like that. That's a weird thing to say. You posted something. There we go.
We put it out into the world. Yeah,
you put it out into the world. Yes, you got something out of it. Like you harvest the value. So, that was cool. Anyways, we've been going at it for an hour and a half. So I'll wrap it up here. Tomorrow, I'm planning to do some live coding. We'll see if that happens or not. If I get too busy, I might have to cancel tomorrow. But I'll be, if I am live coding tomorrow, it'll be on making my own website, because that's what I'm working on now. So kind of ties into that. But yeah, thanks to everyone for stopping by, and see you tomorrow. Bye now.